That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there! There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla!
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that biggin.
It's the Bass Angler Magazine podcast inaugural episode. How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining and welcome. I'm Joel Eade, the host, for lack of a better term, of this podcast. Really excited to have you guys join us. I'm excited to be doing it, and I'm glad that Mark Lassane is the owner of the magazine, asked me to do this, and I'm really excited about it. What I'm hoping that we get from this is really to fulfill the tagline of Bass Angler Magazine, which is the magazine that helps you catch more fish. So this will be the podcast that hopefully helps you catch more fish. We've got some great guests that are lined up, not just in this first episode, but going forward. So, man, yeah, just excited to get into it. Before we do, just talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing. This show will be basically a supplement to Bass Angler Magazine's quarterly issues, but also I'm hoping it'll kind of become a monster of its own. And I think it will. These things kind of evolve that way. But it's going to be great to be able to bounce off a lot of the stuff that is going to be in the magazine. If you don't know about the magazine, definitely go check it out at bassanglermag.com. You can subscribe there and you can find a lot more of digital content there as well. We're going to be diving into some of the articles that are there and some of the people that we feature in the magazine here on the podcast, but we'll also have one-offs that will just be here on the podcast. So yeah, this first episode is completely packed. We've got Justin Lucas. I don't know if you guys have heard of that guy, but we got Justin Lucas on. We got MLF up-and-comer Tai Au with a great interview. It's a lengthy one, but man, his story of coming from these West Coast circuits into the pros, where he's doing really well, is just a great story for anybody who's looking to maybe move up in tournament fishing. So, and then also we're going to have our West Coast spotlight where we'll talk to West Coast circuit guys, guides, really anybody we want here on the West Coast to give them some love. And we've got Ryan Cook this week, who's a favorite here as far as guides go in California. So yeah, I thank you so much for tuning in, and let's stop this jabbering and get right into it. Our first guest of this episode and first guest ever, Justin Lucas, a former FLW fisherman, Northern California native. This podcast is actually being recorded in San Jose, California. So real close to where I'm sitting right now is where Justin kind of cut his teeth, and now moving from FLW into the elites, and is now on the MLF Bass Pro Tour. So he was kind enough to join us. So without further ado, let's get into it with Justin. All right, Justin Lucas, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, you're obviously in the car, you're driving, you're a busy guy, so we appreciate the time. You're a NorCal guy originally, and you've moved out to Alabama. Before we get into it, what's been the biggest difference to you, moving from the West Coast to the heartland of bass fishing world?
I guess probably getting used to sweet tea and fried catfish, dude.
Drinking a lot of sweet tea, eating a lot of fried catfish.
No, I stay away from it. But, everybody thinks it's a big culture shock, but I love it out here, to be honest. It's a great place to live. The big difference out here, and the reason I moved to Lake Guntersville, is because of the TVA, and that's the Tennessee River, and all the lakes that are on the Tennessee River. The TVA generates current in those lakes, power for the communities, and southern Tennessee, northern Alabama. And so really getting used to those lakes has been, that was the reason for moving out there. We had nothing like that out on the West Coast. The closest thing I could say is like it is the Columbia River, but still very different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, other than that, I feel like Northern California did a pretty good job of prepping me for almost everything that I've come across and ran into, so.
What's been the big adjustment when you're fishing those types of impoundments and that type of like river system with the reservoirs? And what's something that you've taken from Northern California that's actually helped you out there that other guys maybe don't do?
Yeah, a lot of I'm pulling up to a toll booth, so I'm going to have to ask for a receipt in a second, but a lot of the finesse techniques work really well on these lakes, the drop shot and wacky rig and all that stuff. The current was the hardest thing getting used to, just understanding how the current moves those fish around and understanding, the times of day that they pull the current so you know when to be on what you think might be your best spots, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. There's probably a little bit of that in the Delta, right? I mean, you're talking more tidal current, but definitely a different situation.
It's very different still. Yeah.
Okay, well, you had in stage 1 at Rayburn, you took 5th, and I watched most of that tournament. Well, I had it in the background at work, but I watched a lot of it. And one thing that really stuck out to me, and this was before I had planned to talk to you, but I was just kind of like blown away at the way you were throwing that that finesse, that drop shot in a place, and you were on a flat, and you had found these fish off the bank. What was going through your head? And why a finesse technique there? I know you found those fish out in that flat, but why would you go with a drop shot over, say, any other technique you could have used?
Well, number one, I was fishing on the bank in that tournament the first couple days, and it just was not happening. And so I finally, a day and a half into the event, got off the bank, and I actually got off the bank with a swim bait, not with the drop shot, and caught a bunch of fish on a swim bait on the second day. We had cloudy conditions, so it was good conditions for the swim bait. But when I went back out there on the knockout rounds, it was sunny and a lot calmer. And, I've just been doing this long enough that I'm not going to sit there and force them to bite a swim bait when the conditions aren't right for it, so I had the drop shot rigged up. I had it rigged up all week, just kind of waiting for the right time to throw it. And once I found those fish on the swim bait, I knew that there was potential on that flat to catch them on some more finesse stuff, if it was going to get slick calm and sunny, which it did, or there's a little breeze, but not enough for the swim bait. So, I was able to pick that drop shot up, really show those fish, I feel like something they haven't seen before, and a presentation, maybe they've seen a drop shot, but not presented the way that I was doing it in that shallow of water, with the color worm I was throwing, and I was throwing a bold bluegill worm on them, and that was just the color I threw a lot back home, growing up in California, and stuff I threw at the Delta, the same largemouth bass that are in the Delta, and those fish love a drop shot in the springtime. So it's something I always have tied on anytime I'm fishing for largemouth in the spring out here on the East Coast.
Yeah, no, and it worked really well for you. I know you lost one big one, but you were able to put a bunch on the boat, and I think you took first place on that knockout round day.
That was a great day, man. It was a really, really good day. Gave me a lot of confidence. Of course, I had a lot of confidence after catching them on the swim bait too, but I really thought I had a chance to win that tournament. I was pretty bummed to end up finishing 5th because you don't always get that feeling in your gut that you're on the type of fish that you could win an event, even when you make the top 10, and that was one of the events where I'm like, oh gosh, there was definitely an opportunity to win that one, but that's okay. Ott won it, and he beat me, and I want revenge eventually, and I'll get it.
I'm sure you will. I love watching you guys go at it, man. It's a lot of fun. So moving on, in the current, the spring edition of Bass Angler Magazine, we have a feature with you and Chad Pipkins, and you guys are both talking about community holes. Clear Lake is a perfect example of community holes. There's a lot of places there that a lot of guys know. So you guys, and it's covered pretty well how you guys kind of, approach community holes. But I had some questions just because there's guys, just for people out there listening, even whether these be just recreational guys or tournament guys that are a little bit shy about community holes. And when I say shy, there's a lot of guys fishing in a small area. What are some tips you have for guys going out there to not shy away? What are some rules of the road and kind of the way that you approach a community hole situation?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's always awkward. I hate fishing next to other people myself too. You know, I always trying to find something out of the crowd. But sometimes you just got to fall back on where the fish are, and they're there for a reason. And I mean, the number one thing, of course, just be courteous and respectful. But you got to put your blinders on too. You got to kind of not pay attention to other people, do your thing. Or if you are paying attention to them, see what they're doing and try and position your boat differently, present the bait differently. I'll check people out, not to see what they're throwing to try and throw what they're throwing, but to try and throw something different, present the bait or a different bait to the fish than anything that they had seen so far.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense. Is there any, and when you say that, I think a lot of people, they hear about a spot, a lot of guys are on it, they're all kind of throwing the same thing. So yeah, your advice is to just maybe try something a little bit different, whereas anybody else would be like, well, hey, if that's the thing, we all got to be doing that thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have the thing tied on too, but when those fish get used to it and they stop biting, you've got to be able to trigger them into biting by doing something different, and it's so hard to say what that is. I mean, it could be anything. Every situation is different on every lake on a community hole. But a lot of times it's something finesse. Those fish are getting pressured. You got to show them something on lighter line. And so that could be anything from a light Carolina rig, light Texas rig, to just smaller profile baits, lighter line on a drop shot, whatever. There's all different kinds of stuff it can be.
Mm-hmm.
You got to experiment. That's when you've got to be, experimenting with it and finding something that you feel like no one else is throwing, that you're getting that you start to get bites on. It just gives you all the confidence in the world that you can fish around all these people and still catch fish.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that, and I'm with you. I'd rather not fish around a lot of people, but there are those lakes where it may just be a small body of water, and you kind of got to figure out a way to, to suck that up and go fishing.
I generally start my practices. I do enough research on a lake. I know maybe not the exact community holes, but the areas that are popular. And I might start my practice doing something, trying to find something off a wall. And if things aren't going well, I'm going to resort back to where those fish are supposed to be and where they've been known to be in the past. And, I try and look for the needle in the haystack to begin with. And then if I can't find it, I'm falling back on what should be able to at least get you close to getting a check. Or sometimes you can have really good tournaments off community holes too. It just depends how much pressure they really are getting at the time.
Yeah, well, and going back to what you did at stage one, and then kind of bringing it back to this whole community hole thing, or looking at what everybody else is doing on that body of water at any time. It might just be a hole. It might just be what everybody else is doing. You see, everybody is running the bank, and you were able to just say, hey, look, this isn't working. It's not making sense. Let's try something else.
Right.
And that's just another way to maybe look at a community hole and say, well, okay, the fish are around here, but where else could they be staging up?
Absolutely. There's always smaller areas close to the community holes, smaller spots that also have generally have fish on them too, that might get overlooked.
Right on. Well, I wouldn't be able to wrap this thing up without asking you, being as I know you fished a lot of the Delta, Clear Lake, Berryessa. I was there yesterday. All awesome fisheries. What is your favorite Northern California fishery? If you had to pick one, I know it's probably a tough question, but.
No, I would have to say the Delta. I mean, it's just such a such a cool place and never stops changing. I love Clear Lake, of course. I love Shasta and Orville. I love them all, but the Delta is kind of special to my heart. It's where I grew up, and it's where I won my first pro tournament. And you're just never guaranteed anything out there from one day to the next.
No.
You really got to stay on those. You got to stay on those fish, man. And that's what I love. I love that it's always changing, and you can feel like you're always fishing a new body of water because of that.
Absolutely, and it does change, and it's a challenge for sure. But
yep. And
one last question I ask everybody. This one, this is a pretty new podcast. We'll see how long it goes. But are you a color guy? And when I say that, do you see color as being something more important to the fish or the fisherman?
Probably to the fisherman. I'm very simple on colors. I don't do anything really too crazy at all on colors, to be honest. So I'm some kind of black, some kind of purple, some kind of green and brown, and that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, and the more guys I talk to, the more I don't even think I have. I've only talked to a couple of you guys, but it seems like everybody's kind of in that same boat. Keep it simple.
Yeah, we got to keep it simple. We are trying to find fish on bodies of water that we're not familiar with. So the last thing we're trying to do is find, quote, the special color for that body of water, because generally that's more of a local myth than anything for the most part, I think.
Well, there you go. There you have it, folks. From Justin Lucas himself. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on, Justin, and I hope we can do it again down the line sometime.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, good luck this season.
Thank you.
Get outdoors and spend some time in your lab, because in theirs, at Fish Lab, they learn by doing. The water is their lab, and they love doing research. Fish Lab knows there's a reason when a lure works, and that angling is part art and part science. It's a puzzle where the pieces constantly change, sometimes in our favor, sometimes not. But by applying decades of experience, bold creativity, a little patience, and a lot of time on the water, we can better the odds of finding the successful formula that catches you more fish. Fish Lab lures are realistic, scientifically accurate, meticulously crafted, and designed for one purpose: to catch more and bigger fish. Straight out of the lab, Fish Lab has you covered, with a full line of hard baits, swim baits, glide baits, wake baits, soft weedless swim baits, and bluegill baits. The badass rattle toad, plus a line full of saltwater baits. Check them out at your favorite tackle dealer or online at fishlabtackle.com, and follow on Instagram at fishlabtackle. The science behind the strike, Fish Lab.
I really appreciate Justin coming on. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Very busy tournament schedule, flying all around the country. So when I say flying, I mean driving copious amounts. But you know what I meant. Next up, we got Tai Au. Maybe a lot of you haven't heard of him if you're not, real into the bass fishing scene here on the West Coast. He's a Wild West angler, FLW angler out here. And this year he decided to make the big leap to the MLF, fishing some of those big tournaments out east. So we talked to him about how that came about, and in getting into that, we kind of talked about his whole progression from how he got into tournament fishing, and then to making this bigger leap into, quote unquote, the pros, and it's worked out really well for him. But there's some, some trips along the way, but man, he's overcome and is doing, phenomenally. So let's get into it with Tai Au. All right, everybody, we got Tai Au on the phone here. Tai, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Joe, what's going on?
Hey, man, thank you so much. I apologize for the back and forth. As we kind of talked about before we got on the call, anybody that's out west, they know your name. Anybody who follows, competitive fishing out here and, on the left coast. And so I wanted to have you on today to kind of talk about, how you got into it. And then, we'll kind of talk about where you are now, which is, a big leap, and you're doing well. So first of all, again, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, no, I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you guys having me on this show. And my my roots stem pretty deep. I grew up fishing here. I was born and raised in Arizona, and since I was a little kid, my father would take my brother Tai Au and I out fishing. And at that time, my dad, we didn't have a lot of money, and he fished, took us fishing. And now that I look back, man, I mean, not only that fishing was fun, but we were really fishing for our food. So I grew up fishing for bluegills, catfish, carp, trout, I mean, anything, crappie. And then probably about the age of 10, 11, my dad told us to go to Walmart. We got to pick out a crankbait. Each picked out one. I think mine was some frog color Rapala. And my dad picked a rattle trap. We picked something else. We went to the middle of the lake, threw out an anchor in our John boat. And we're just one of those guys, you see them every once in a while on the lake. We just threw out an anchor and just cast in the middle of nowhere and just kept on reeling. And fishing was a lot simpler back in the day. We caught the heck out of them. Little did we know we were actually on one of the best fisheries on the West Coast, San Carlos, at that time. And I mean, that's where I really started bass fishing. And then, my brother and I were at Saguaro Bait and Tackle. I remember seeing a flyer, and we thought that, they got tournaments, so cool. So we decided to sign up for one. It was $130. I remember when I signed up for that tournament, we were fishing out of a 1988 bass tracker. I mean, I was shivering because
how old were you then? How old were you then?
I think I was about 15. Yeah, 15 years old. My brother was 16, maybe 17. But we signed up. I was shivering, not because it was so cold. It was just I was so nervous, man. The tournament jitters. I'll never forget that day. I was really excited, and long story short, we got a butt kick. Our teeth kicked in, finished in the middle of the pack, and at that time, all I really knew how to do was throw a Texas rig, some cranking. Couldn't really crank there because the whole lake's surrounded by tules and small lake, just about an hour north of the Nogales, Arizona border. Maybe 30 minutes. It's pretty close to the border, but it's an hour and 15, hour, 20 minutes south of Tucson. Grew up fishing there. So in my early 20s, I moved up for a career opportunity here in Arizona, in Phoenix, major city. And part of the reason why I want to move up to Phoenix is I was a lot closer to a lot of lakes. Like Lake Pleasant right now is only about half an hour. Saguaro is about 45 minutes. Bartlett. Mm-hmm. Roosevelt, Havasu, still only 3.5 hours. So I was, living down in Tucson. I mean, add an extra 2 hours to any of those drives. So it was hard for me to explore other lakes. And that was a blessing for me because I went from a grass fisherman to a finesse guy. I learned the finesse game up here in the valley. My first break in tournament fishing, as a matter of fact, I had actually quit tournament fishing back in, I believe, 2010. I was done. I mean, things weren't going good for me. I had lost everything. I was living with a baby sis at the time after that last depression, whatever you want to call it. For me, it was a depression. It wasn't a recession. It was a depression. Yeah. I was bummed out. Fishing was just so expensive. Quit fishing. My brother was still fishing. He dragged me out of the house to fish the National Guard event at the California Delta. And I remember I told him no 3 different times.
And that's a little bit a little bit of a haul too, going from Arizona to the Delta.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, man, I used to think my brother was crazy making that 13-hour drive from Tucson. For me, it's about 11 hours if you're speeding in California. So I just remember, man, you're crazy for driving that far. It was just one of those things I couldn't wrap my head around. But anyway, he said, hey, help me drive. I'll pay for everything. You need to get your butt out of the house. So long story short, going into the final day, man, I found myself with a 4-pound lead or something like that, a Drew Bobby Barrick. I was a wreck. I mean, at that point, it was pretty much the lowest point of my life, okay? I had nothing. I mean, just to be completely honest with you guys, I didn't even have a bank account. I had lost my bank account because I was that broke. Didn't even keep a bank account going. Goodness. And, I was done. But, man, that tournament, long story short, Drew Bobby Barrett, I ended up second. I screwed up, had the bikes to win it. I remember I was just setting the hook way too hard. I look back, I see all the mistakes that I did now. It's nobody's fault but my own, just unexperienced. And, before I was leading that tournament, I remember I thought I was pretty good. First event, I'm sitting in first. I can go out there and win this. And I didn't. So, and I drew Bobby Barrick, like a big name out west, as we all know. And just to see how good that guy is casting and his mechanics and just his decision making, I went there thinking I was maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7 or 8, to leaving the event knowing that on a scale of 1 to 10, now I'm a 3. Okay, and that's just the honest truth.
And you were fishing. You were fishing as a co, correct?
Yeah, I was fishing as a co. So the first few pros, I had more weight, than them, and I was throwing a wacky rig Cinco, the wacky rig Yamamoto Cinco, and the color I was throwing you couldn't get because it was a watermelon red, but they have been so faded and so old that they turn like this orangey color, and like they're super soft now. I think that was the reason why I was catching so many fish. But looking back at it, that just remembering everybody online cheering for me, but the text messages, there's still love that I got. And like that tournament did something for me that, when I left, and at that time, I remember on the way up, my brother handed me his phone. Hey, watch this video. It was a video of Clay Dyer. He had no arms, no legs. He was out there, getting after it. And man, I was in a pay party with myself, drowning in self-sorrow. And I needed to see that video, man. That was like one of the best trips for me that anybody's ever done for me. So when I got back from that trip, I mean, the desire to go try to win one, that fire was burning hot, man. And yeah, I just want to go out there and experience that high again. And been chasing it ever since. And believe it or not, I was chasing it for another 9-10 years, all the way up into 2020. Now, I feel bad saying this. In 2020, I actually had a good year. I finally won my first event a little over a year ago from today. It was at Havasu. And the funny thing is, I wasn't even planning on fishing FLW last year. I just knew that I needed to sign up for Havasu because it's a regional level event. I looked at how things were lining up. I thought that that's an event I can win because, I know how to bed fish, and I figured, what, I got to go sign up there. Ended up being right. I won that event. So that kind of set me up. I never missed a Delta. So I show up to the Delta just for, the primary reason was just like it's ingrained in me that the Delta is a special place in my heart because, man, that's where it all started for me. It's my home away from home. It's kind of crazy to think for the last 10, 11 years now. I have logged over 100 days on the Delta, and the Delta is like 11 hours away from it.
That's crazy. That's dedication, man. I live, I live about an hour away, and that place kicks my butt all the time. But man, that's what I'm talking. That's really why I kind of wanted to have you on is like the passion behind this to get to the level that you're at now. It takes that kind of commitment, driving that far and like putting in the time, like crazy.
Yeah, I don't, it's crazy because I remember I said now, I used to not be able to wrap my head around making that drive. I used to be like, man, that is crazy. You're crazy. But over the years, man, it's kind of like this. Like, remember, if you ever have a long commute to work, it's like 45 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes away, like those long commutes. When you like go to work, you don't think about it. You just think that's a part of the day, a part of the job. You no longer think about it. Once you accept that, hey, it is what it is, you deal with it a little bit better. That's like the key to anything in life. It's just accepting it is what it is. So I accepted that, hey, look, man, in order for me to make it, driving is a part of the job, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, one of the things I always kind of go by and live by is embrace the suck. Okay, so when I go out there, honestly, man, it's I used to like hate the drive. Now I like it because it's really my time to kind of like, think and, watch YouTube videos and watch some motivation videos, sometimes ebooks. I'm like looking up like fishing reports, watch comedy, music, whatever. It's just my time to like just think, drive, and before I know it, I'm there. I can make it there in a day. I leave in the morning, I'm there in the evening. So it's not bad. Now those drive back east, that's a different story, man. That's,
right? Yeah, and that's something I wanted to talk to you about as you've moved into, you know, like I said, you were fishing the FLW out here. You fished the Wild West. You're pretty successful in the Wild West as well. And then let's get to the point where, you know, this year where you're like, I'm going to make that jump. You know, what prompted that?
Yeah, so I ended up going to the Delta. I got top 10 there, and I knew I wasn't even planning on fishing Clear Lake. So I'm like, man, I got a chance to win Angler of the Year. Went to Clear Lake, had a horrible practice. I would have bet you my kids that I wasn't going to win that tournament, and I ended up winning that tournament. So now looking back, I'm like, man, now, you know, I have the money to finally get started because, like many other guys out there, I couldn't wrap my head around paying $4,500 a tournament. I just couldn't do it. But on the way to Clear Lake, you know, I'm calling my brothers, like, man, hey, you know, if I do well and Angler of the Year, man, I mean, what do you think about me going on tour, things like that? And at first, believe it or not, my brother told me, like, yeah, I don't think you should go, man. You should go back out there and fish the opens. But we also, like, thought about, man, when's the next time I'm going to qualify? Because it's hard to beat these guys out west. I mean, these guys are really good out west. I got nothing but respect for them. So to finish Angler of the Year and having the opportunity to go represent, like, the West Coast, Arizona, whatnot, you know, it's a big deal, man. And, yeah, truth is, I haven't fished back west. But also the other truth is, man, for all the events out west, the Columbia River, New Maloney, Shasta, all those lakes, every regional level lake, I found some success in. So I know that it's possible that I can do well on a lake that I've never been to. Heck, I almost won New Maloney's and made one crucial mistake. I caught a fish outside the mouth with my 5.8 pound bed fish, but I released them. I didn't win the tournament because of that. You know, if I would have caught him in the mouth, I would have won. But at the end of the day, again, I made that a calculated gamble, if you will, to go back east. And what that meant was I had to quit my career, and that was like the other scary thing. I used to have nightmares about losing my job, you know, and because, you know, this is how I provide for my family and things like that.
Absolutely.
So the decision back east, I think a lot of people can I mean, my story, I guess, resonates with a lot of folks out there because, you know, I'm not born with money. I provide for my family. I'm a family guy. I work a 9-to-5 just like you do. And, you know, to make that next jump means that, all right, I'm going to have to quit. The smartest thing I can do is start a business, which is my insurance brokerage business. So I got the experience. So I'm going to go do that. And then fishing back east is about, well, the sponsorships and things like that. So, you know, I'm right in touch with a lot of right people that made it happen. So I made a call to pretty much all my sponsors. Most of them were on board. Most of them, unfortunately, there was a few that wasn't able to help me, and that's okay. That's just a part of the game. But starting around like November, things were coming together as far as the sponsorship. The financial piece was starting to make sense. It was getting close. It was still risky as heck, but I knew deep down in my heart that, man, it actually felt right. Okay, it felt right to go. So financially, I made that decision, and I decided to make that leap. The first event at Okeechobee after getting it out, the drive was horrible. It's actually a lot more horrible than I can explain. It is totally different from making it to the Columbia River because I can make it there in a day and a half. It took me like almost 3 days to make it to Okeechobee, and man, my tailbone was killing me. Man, I don't drive a comfortable truck neither. My truck had 300. When I left here, it had 321,000 miles on it. Okay, so I took that truck on tour.
Wow, man.
And no guts, no glory.
That's right.
You know, that's what I got. That's what I'm going to run. So I'm going to roll with it. So I had to. I couldn't. So I get there, man. What kills me about Okeechobee is I didn't feel uncomfortable there. It reminded me a lot like the Delta, Clear Lake, and then my home lake, Patagonia. I found them the second day. Man, I was like, I found an area I thought was in SeaWorld. I caught 17 pounds, no problem. I would estimate that I can catch about mid-20s there, no problem. First day of the event, pro debut, 2 o'clock, I found myself with one stinking fish in the live well at 2 p.m. Man, talk about like an elephant on your shoulder. You have the whole weight of the world on your shoulder, and it did not feel good. So, I didn't panic. I just busted out like actually a spinning rod, and I put a 5-inch Finkel on, and I just went down the bank, caught my limit. So came in, second day, ran back out, trying to make that adjustment. Thought the fish pulled out, fished, caught some fish, pulled back in. There they were. At the end of the day, couldn't really catch them. Not to brag or anything, but I did catch the smallest limit of the whole entire field. And I found myself sitting in 135th. I left Okeechobee driving with no music on, staring at the road. Man, I was bummed out.
I can only imagine.
Right away, I started.
I can only imagine, right man. That it's just. I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah.
Just as someone who fishes small tournaments, it's like I listen to you and I'm just like, oh, that's. I mean, it's painful, but I mean, there's a great. We're moving into a really good part of the story here, so keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll try not to interrupt you.
So just to recap, I had quit my job. I got no like steady income coming in. My pro debut. I go out there, fall right smack on my face, immediately having doubts like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Like, oh my goodness, like, wow, So, believe it or not, I did a lot of research on Okeechobee, did all my homework, and like, I don't know if you guys ever remember going to school studying for a test. You show up and like, I didn't study this part of the chapter or something. I don't know any of the answers. That's how I felt at Okeechobee. And, man, I heard, guys like, hey, my friends, guys have been out there. Hey, that's Okeechobee. Anyway, I was honestly burnt out already with fishing, thinking about fishing. I was done with it. I came back, just started working. I didn't do any research on Smith Lake other than watching 2 videos on prior FLW events there. And, other than that, I looked at the map, looked at where we launched, looked at where we're staying, and that's all I did, man. I didn't want to think about it. When I showed up to Smith Lake, this is how unprepared I was, and this is my style, by the way. I pulled up, I drove to the first spot, didn't even have a rod tied on. I actually pulled it out, tied on my leader, tied on the hook. Took me forever just to get in the water. But I started to, recognize some of the stuff I recognized at Lake Shasta, spotted bass. So, I caught tons of fish. And here's the funny story. Watching all the videos, I didn't see anything about a limit. And then where they put, like, what the limit is was kind of hidden. So I didn't read that part. I didn't know that this year Major League Fishing didn't get an exception for a bass. That's 12 inches and above. That used to be a keeper. But now it's 15 inches or bigger. It's kind of like sending you to Shasta and say, hey, you need to catch a 15-inch bass and bigger.
Man.
A lot of guys that would normally have limits are not going to have limits now. And that.
So did MLF make that change? Did MLF make that change when they kind of took over?
No, well, there's a slot limit there. They just didn't get an exception this year.
Okay, I see.
So, yeah. So, anyway, I went from thinking that I caught close to 30 keepers to like thinking, I think I got 5. I know I got 3 for sure, and I'm like, oh boy. Second day went out and launched over by the dam, had a horrific practice too, man. I mean, it couldn't go worse. I'm like sitting there like Okeechobee all over again. And I'm like, is this how my year is going to be? It is what it is. I didn't plan on setting the world on fire. I'm just going to have to deal with it like a man and pay my dues. So that's my attitude with it. So, I basically just fished until the very last hour, and man, the last hour and a half, things started to come together. Picked up a swim bait, caught like a 4-pounder, 2 nice keepers, had a 6-pound spot follower, and 2 taps on my S waiver. I never caught a fish on the S waiver, but I had 2 taps on it. So I'm like, cool. I'm gonna go, start the bridge polling where I caught the 3-pounder the first day. Couldn't catch a keeper. I left, fished a dock, caught my first keeper, helped settle me in. I ran over to the dam and caught 2 more on a tiny little Kitech. And then, the conditions. One thing I can tell the listeners out there is if you know anything about me, you'll know that I fish the conditions. I truly fish the moment. And that's the biggest advice I can give anybody, fish the moment, okay? So I recognize that overcast conditions, these fish are going to be scattered. They should be munching on a reaction bait of some sort. I happen to have an S-waver in my hand. So I had 3 fish, ran over to the spot where I had that 6-pound spot follower, and man, one missed it. And I was like, man, that must have been her. So I ran over to the second spot, picked up the S-waver, caught 2 nice ones within 5 minutes. I had my limit already, and I already had like 12 pounds.
Oh, man.
And 12 pounds is a good bag.
Yeah.
But I just decided to keep on going with it. I called up to maybe 13, and then, I decided to kind of run back, practice. I found another area, and I caught like a 3 1/4, another like 3. Man, I had almost 15 pounds. So that was an awesome bag. I mean, I was leaving it for a while until the later flights came in. I dropped all the way down to 8. So second day I went out there, the storm system was still pushing through that low pressure, picked up that S-waver, and I caught exactly 6 fish that day for another 12 pounds. And I caught like another 12 pounds. And then the final day, conditions didn't line up for that swim bait, but I was sitting in second, man. It was such an awesome feeling. I have so much support from my friends, got nothing but love for them. But unfortunately, I had to put my phone away because I think at one point I was over 200-something text messages. My Facebook, I couldn't catch up with the messages. So it was awesome. That feeling I had at the California Delta, my very first event, I had it again. I was at an all-time low 3 weeks before to an all-time high now. So, man, it was I've never been to Smith's Lake. Never been to any of those lakes that we're going to. And I honestly, before Okeechobee, I didn't know if I belonged out there, man. I didn't know if I belonged because I never fished back there. So just being honest with my thoughts and feelings, and if anything, that gave me validation that, man, I can do this. I can compete with these guys. And, I just got, tournament. There's some luck. I got to stumble into a right area, and I know how to catch them. So I just got to find those areas and get lucky here and there. And I think even if I don't, we got to pay my dues like anything else. But, man, my goal this year was to make one top 10, and I did that in my second event, which was pretty crazy. So I got a long road ahead of me. I got 4 events left. I made finishing that high, I ended up getting invited to go fish back in Florida on Harris Chain in May for the 3rd stage of the Bass Pro Tour. So it's so awesome because, I'm going to be fishing against Kevin Van Dam and all those guys, and like that Major League Fishing format that I've always wanted to fish. So, man, it's just crazy how like things can change so fast. But, I'm still tickled to death about my finish at Smith Lake. And those guys definitely gave me a lot of love. You know what's funny? While the viewers on the West Coast, if anybody knows me, knows and fish and follow me on the Wild West Bass Trail, I have never, ever, ever been called a swim bait guy. Ever. And all of a sudden now they'll back on the East Coast, I'm known as a swim bait guy for whatever reason.
You solidified it, man. It's one tournament. You solidified it.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm very good at anything out there, any technique. I think I'm like decent at a lot of things. I just know how to do a lot of things. I'm very versatile. So, man, a little history about myself. Like I work so much, and I provide pretty much all the income for the family. Got 2 kids. And, Friday has always been my busiest day working in insurance. Mm-hmm. It's when people want to get paid and want to get to switch their insurance and wrap up their stuff. So I was never really able to take Friday off, so I never practiced for any of the local derbies. And so many derbies I came so close to winning, but I didn't know where to catch an extra 2.5 pounder. And that really like bothered me for a lot of years. But through the years, I found that that's a blessing in disguise, because I literally show up and, it forces me to fish the moment and keep an open mind. When you go out there and practice and sometimes conditions change on you, well, actually most of the time it's going to change on you, you're not really able to adapt because you're so stuck in like how you caught them the day before. So with that being said, going out to Smith Lake, yeah, man, I didn't catch a fish in practice on the S-waver, but reading the conditions, it felt good. Like, man, I was right,
That's
yeah,
like
I look back, it's
hero
pretty
zero
magical.
stuff. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and we don't call an S-Waver on the West Coast a giant bait, but I was reading in the magazine, I'm like, man, they're calling this a giant bait. And even John Cox, I parked next to John Cox, I pulled out my S-Waver, and John was mentioning something on the live feed, like, man, you should see the swim bait this guy's throwing. It's huge. I'm like, dude, man, I should have pulled out my Bait Smith Magnum.
What size waiver are you throwing?
It's just a 168.
Wow.
And I got to give a shout out to Joe Uribe and Joe Uribe Jr. and Joe Uribe Sr. It's it's an old S-Waver. It has a different tail. It has a plastic tail. I mean, they made some modifications to it, and just a little extra touch of paint, and Joe came over with a care package, drove completely out of his way. I mean, he lives about 35 minutes away, 40 minutes away from me. And, man, he came over before I left and, hey, man, just try some of these baits out. If they work, they work, And at first I was looking at that S-Waver. I'm like, man, I don't have that color. It looks similar to a herring. I don't even know what a herring looks like, but I saw the picture online. So I'm like, yeah, let's give it a try. Dude. Man, I still thank Joe, and I'm trying to, figure out, how I can thank them. And I offered them a gift card to Tackle Warehouse. Those guys want nothing, So shout out to Joe, man. I mean, I really appreciate it. And that's what I'm talking about, the help, support. And Joe's we all know Joe's one of the greats on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah. He
can definitely make it on tour. Guy's so good. And, he's never been to Smith Lake. I didn't get any outside info. Just dropped by some baits and, seeing, we're all fans of the sport. We watched fishing on TV and we saw how things set up and gave me some baits. I thought that was cool,
That's really cool. And,
yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, I got South Carolina coming up in about 2 weeks. I'll leave here on the 16th. So basically, for the viewers out there wondering how I'm doing the tour, I found that it's a lot more cost effective to fly out there, find some friends. I got a shout out to another hero, another guy that's really helping me out, Mark Daniels.
Oh, right on, yeah.
So, yeah, all those West Coast guys, we kind of got to stick together and try to help each other out. He knows what I'm going through. He's done it, and man, hearing his story is way, way more cool than mine. And man, I talked to him. I don't know. I mean, sorry if I'm throwing him out there, but yeah, he told me, man, he had $9,000 to $12,000 to his name. And picked up his whole entire family, unrooted himself from California, and moved to Alabama with $9 to 12 grand. I can't remember the number. It wasn't much. To move out there to start his fishing career. I mean, I don't have the guts to do that. Okay. And yeah, so my respects to him. But Alabama, where he's at, is pretty close to all the southern venues. So I am flying I park my truck and boat there, get a, ride to the airport, and the flight's about $170 if you book it out over 30 days in advance.
Yeah.
So it would have cost me maybe $500 and maybe 2.5 days of my time driving there and driving back. So I'm losing really 5 days. Well, I can fly back. I'm back home in about 6 hours.
Oh man, that's great.
So, yeah, the bummer thing is, here I don't have a truck and boat.
So that was gonna be my next question is how does that feel? You almost got to feel naked. You're so used to having your boat and your truck, but if you're gonna be fishing those lakes, I mean, you got to have it there, right? So
yeah, it's truly depressing right now. The fish are spawning. Man, I love bed fishing, and I haven't even caught a bed fish. But it's again, the idea sounded so good to me in December. But now that I'm living through it, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to make an adjustment here. So, yeah, I might just buy another truck and boat.
You might have to.
I'm looking for maybe an old Bass Cat, and just a small quarter-ton truck so I can haul it around town just to get out there. Because, man, fishing is also my therapy, and I got to get out there at least couple times a month to be all right. Other than that, you don't want to be around me, man.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, the other headache is, the logistics of it all, right? I'm not a very good planner that I found. Like, it is really hard to go and look at all these dates, plan everything, book your hotel, book your airfare, book it back, figure out where you're going to drive your rig, what airports. So just to kind of paint a better picture for you guys, when I decided to go on tour and I was downloading all these apps onto my card, my mapping, it took me forever to find the right, like, to figure out where these lakes were at. And then the funny thing is, I didn't know there was two Eufalas. So I think the first Eufaula I downloaded was in Texas. So that's how lost I am. Okay, so I got it's been a huge learning curve for me. It's kind of been comical at the same time. It is like, the adventures of Tai Au. Like, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing, man. Yeah. But I'm out there doing it. So, but yeah, for my advice for like anybody that wants to fish, I mean, I did it through the grassroots way. I mean, about 9 years ago, getting back on my feet, the story is, man, I drove around town. At that time, I didn't make a lot of money. My brother brought me a car, which is a 1997 Honda Accord, 4-door. Didn't even have power windows. Had a cold AC, but no power windows. And I signed up as a co-angler in the TBF, and I was really training as a co-angler for the regional level events, FLW, when I got there. So back in the day, the co-anglers were allotted half the day towards the front of the boat. I never took that. And that year, I was fortunate enough to win Angler of the Year. With no practice, I won Angler of the Year. I got in the state team, couldn't go. My son was born. And this is how much I love the Delta side. Funny bonus story. No one tells you anything about fatherhood, right? And like, you think you're ready for it, but really you have no idea until you go through it. It's kind of like the tour what I'm dealing with right now.
Absolutely.
But I was so like determined to go to the Delta, because when I hear the Delta, I gotta go, man. Like, that's the place that I just hate missing. And my fiance is pregnant with my son, and she knows. Like, I've been honest with her. I'm a fisherman. She knows it, so she's supportive, and this is how awesome she is. She's like, yeah, we'll schedule this. Like, we worked out a plan, and we both agreed that, hey, we'll schedule the C-section. I'll spend 2 days with you and the kids, my son, and then I'm gonna leave to the Delta. Right? That was the plan all along.
Dedication. I'm telling you, man, you are dedicated.
Oh, that I don't know. That was more dumb than dedication. I'll admit that. So I wasn't ready I didn't know what to expect for fatherhood. So when my son was born, man, nothing else mattered, man. The Delta didn't matter. My whole life changed. She's been a blessing, just made me become like the person I am. I just realized there was more to life than just fishing. So, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's a lot harder when you have kids. And when I hear people say, hey, don't have kids and don't get married if you want to fish professionally, I hate hearing that, because, hey, I'm doing it. There's plenty of other guys out there doing it. And I had this conversation with Josh Bertrand, the West Coast stud. I asked him about that. It's like, man, how do you balance the time with family and all that stuff? And he said, you know what, man, yeah, it's a bummer being gone for a week, sometimes 2 weeks at a time, sometimes even 3 weeks, depending on how packed our schedule is. But here's the deal. When I'm home, I'm home. And it made me think about my 9-to-5 job. See, I have to leave 45 minutes before. I get maybe half an hour with my kids in the morning. I work till 5, maybe 6. It takes me 45 minutes to get back home. I'm home 6:30 to 7 o'clock. I get maybe 2 hours with them, right?
Yeah.
And then on the weekend, I usually have a weekend tournament. So really, I get Sunday with them, a few hours on Saturday and Sunday. I don't get to spend a lot of time with my kids as is right now. So when I'm home, man, I am home. I get to go pick up the kids, drop them off, get to go do stuff. I mean, middle of the day, they get like half days. I get to hang out. I see my kids more now than I ever have working a 9-to-5 job. So something to think about. I think a lot of the people's opinion out there is kind of wrong. So I'm here to shed some light on it. And it's possible. So back to my story about how to get started. So See, I'm really big, and I heard this through Ken Mogg, if he was talking to Jared Lintner about this. If you are not a contender at the club level, you're not going to be a contender at the local level, local teams and stuff. You're not a contender at local teams. You're not going to be a contender at the regional level. I truly believe that. Mm-hmm. So I made sure that I did well as a co-angler. A year later or two, I bought a boat, fished out of the front of the boat. This is my next first big break. Funny story. I don't recommend anybody doing this. I was saving for, this is kind of like before my son was born. I saved up. I remember I had exactly $5,500 saved up to buy a house for my son. I just needed a 3% down payment. So I was almost there. So, anyway, my brother calls me in January or late December. Hey, man, you should buy this boat. And I'm like, dude, I'm saving for a house. I don't have anywhere to put this boat. Like, why are you calling me? And then when my brother's like really smart with financials, he wouldn't be calling me if it wasn't like a smoking deal. So I asked him how much. There's another, Tom Lee used to fish that Paul W. Tour. He was moving back to Vietnam, and he had a 2006 Ranger with the Evinrude with a 1.5-year warranty, 2 graphs on it. It was a tour boat. Mm-hmm. And it was worth $27,000-28,000. But my brother's like, dude, he wants to get rid of it for 15 G's. I'm like, yeah, hold on. Hey, Dad, I only got $5,500. The boat's worth like 27 grand. It's like my brother's boat. Has a year left in the warranty. Worst comes to worst. If I can't buy a house, I'll sell the boat, but I'm good for it. Could you loan me $9,500? He's like, yeah, son, I got you. So that's how I got my first boat.
Oh, right on, man.
And here's the other funny story. Remember I told you I had nowhere to put it? I mean that. So here I am. While my brother's towing it back from Kentucky, I'm calling everybody I knew in the fishing community to see if I could park my boat at their house, because I was living in a tiny, 12 by 12 foot room, 1,100 square foot home, and my truck didn't even fit in the driveway, let alone a boat. And it's in an HOA community, so there's no way in heck I was going to put my boat there. Yep. Found a friend, Andrew Napoleon, let me park my boat there for 5 months, man. Fast forward to another month. I can't remember, it was the Rayovac series or Toyota series now. I went to Roosevelt. I decided to go sign up. Now I got a truck, got a boat. I want to go sign up. So I took this boat out, signed up for that tournament. And by the time practice was over, I remember filling up my truck and boat. And I checked my bank account. I had $117 to my name. And I was like, broke, man. So I fished my butt off. Fortunately enough, I got 5th. I won $5,500. So I'm back to square one plus a boat, right?
Man.
3 months after that, I remember when I bought my house, I had to send in my check stub and explain in a letter how I got that money. And I remember, I won that tournament, and, this is the article and all that stuff. So I had to prove that income. So which is kind of cool. So I still live in the same house today, nothing fancy. So it's a very modest house. I don't show off anything. I mean, everything is pretty much allocated towards my dreams and fishing on tour. So anything that I can cut, if you really want to make it, I'm telling you, sometimes you got to give up something to get something. During those few years, I didn't have a lot of money. I was struggling with bills. Just to give you an idea how bad I was struggling and how far in advance I planned, the U.S. Open was coming up later on that year. And I was looking over my finances, and dude, I found that I can cut the cable bill. So I called in, I cut the cable bill, right? So we no longer had cable. It had the cheapest internet service, and I had to do that 3 months in advance just to make it to the U.S. Open, right? So talk about man, there's a lot of things that I had to do that a lot of people don't know about, but hey, sometimes that's what it takes. And I see people like, yeah, man, I gave it a shot, but I mean, did you really? I mean, dude, I'm still driving a truck with 324,000 miles on it now, and that's all I can afford. I'm not going to go out there and spend all this money on a truck and risk losing it anyway because I'm done with my finances. I still eat tons of ramen, man. I still make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So anywhere I can.
There's
cut
nothing
costs,
wrong
I
with a
do
peanut
it.
butter and jelly sandwich, Ty. There ain't nothing wrong with
Nah, man. I bonus. I actually like it. I actually like peanut butter
So
jelly
do I.
sandwiches. So yeah, but the point is, like, you know, I mean, it all boils down to how bad you want it. If you want to see a good motivational video, look up Eric Thomas. How bad do you want it? The part that really resonated with me was the story where he told, like, you know, there's something about a mentor taking somebody out there that, you know, wants to be successful, and he took him out to water and stuck his head under the water and almost drowned the guy. And when he popped back up and asked him, hey, when you were underwater, what did you want to do? I want to breathe, you know? So when you get to the point where you want something as bad as you want to breathe, because when you really think about it, people, you know, the other story you told is like when you have asthma, right, and you had an asthma attack, you don't care about no football, you don't care about anything else other than breathing, right? So when you get to that point, that's when you're going to be successful. So, man, that really resonated with me because, man, I've always wanted to make it on tour since, man, I was like 13, 14. I'm 37 now, and I made it on tour. So how long is that? What, 26 years roughly? Or whatever it was, 25, 26, whatever. It took a long time, but hey, I'm here, man. You know, and I've always told myself, like, it didn't matter if I was going to get that 45 or 50. I want 5 years on tour. If I can get 5 years on tour, I'll be happy and content with my life. So, yeah, it's I still get like starstruck seeing everybody out there. You know, funny little story that was actually neat to me, which might not be a big deal to the listeners out there, but I parked next to Chris Lane. I introduced myself. Hey, Chris. Hey, big family of yours, man. Nice to meet you. Just want to introduce myself off not being out here competing with you. And he reached in his white, greasy bag with his bare fingers and reached for a sausage ball. I'm like, hey, bro, you want a sausage ball? And I looked at the sausage ball with COVID going on and everything. It was like he's touching with his hands all greasy and shiny. And it looked like he already bit out of the sausage ball. I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. I kind of wanted to say yes because it's Chris Lane, but dude, his hand, you should have seen it. His hands were greasy, and it literally looked like he just bit out of the sausage ball. He was trying to give me that. And I thought he was playing, and he was dead serious. So I'm all like, nah, man, I'm good. But hey, thanks for the offer. He's like, you sure, man? They're delicious. Come on, just try one. I'm like, dude, no, I'm good. I had to tell him like no 3 times. And he's all like, all right, cool. He looked at the sausage. Oh, it looks like I already bit out of this one. He just ate it. And I'm like, I thought that was kind of cool, kind of funny, but yeah, I'm like, Chris Lane offered me a sausage ball, man. That's crazy.
That's definitely funny. Ty, you got stories. Yeah. You got stories for days, bro.
Yeah, man. I love the game. I love like fishing and I know what it took to get here, so I'm just trying to live it up. And yeah, man, I'm taking tons of pictures because I know one day I'm going to look back and I'm going to cherish this time, and I'm doing everything I can to cherish it right now. So, yeah, it's a dream come true. And if you want to make it out there, my best advice is to do it right. Lay a good foundation. Learn as much as you can. Don't be stubborn and hard-headed about, like, thinking that, yeah, you can't teach old dog new tricks. I'm out there still learning every single day, every time I'm on the water. So when you're out there, you know, pretend like you don't know anything and just be observant. Study like fish behavior, how barometric pressure affects fish, seasonal changes, water clarity, how, you know, bass behaves, you know, in certain type of conditions, you know, because I still see a lot of those guys make the mistakes and not adjusting and, you know, practices and everything. Look, I spent the last 8-9 years not practicing for about 98% of the local tournaments out here. And, you know, I got a pretty strong resume for doing well out here. I've been very profitable fishing at the local level, you know, and regionally, hell, I don't know these lakes, you know, I don't know. I mean, besides the Delta, I really don't know Shasta. I've only been there like 5 times. New Baloney's have been there twice, almost won the first time. I cashed the check the second time. Went out to, well, Oroville. I have no desire to ever go back, by the way. If they ever go back there, I'm telling you right now, I'm calling in sick. Then, you know, what else? Clear Lake. I've been there maybe 5 times now, and ended up winning. And then top 10 the last time I was there. So it was, it didn't happen overnight. With my point being, like, my first 4 events at Shasta, I didn't cash a check. My goal there was just to cash a check, and I ended up finishing 5th last year. That was my first time I ever was successful at Shasta. So,
well, Tai,
Havasu, that was.
I have to say, man, like it's so surprising to me that you say that, like, oh, I've never fished these places, had no just like, I'm just going to go in there completely blind, because if the videos I've watched with you online when you're in a tournament, you would never know that. If anybody watched that, you would never think that. You would think that you have fished that body of water umpteen times and you knew it backward, back and forth, because you got such a presence on the water. You got so much confidence. How much does that play into it? I mean, you seem like a really confident. You're out there, what you're supposed to be doing. So you seem really confident.
Well, no, a bass is a bass, except for Florida bass. I found out the other month, but a bass is a bass. It's a bass, right? And like this is where like another quote that actually, quite frankly, pisses me off. It's time on the water. You got to have time on the water.
Mm-hmm.
If time on the water is so important, why is Jordan in the league taking all, veterans that, taking in? So, no, it's not about time on the water. It's what you do with that time and how you make your adjustments. I really believe that. Like, I'll be honest with you, okay? When I'm out there, I want to say I only know what I'm doing about 20% of the time. The other 80, I'm like, crap, I'm just trying to find a bite or get bit. And that's the reality of it. It is an absolute grind. It's not easy going out there and trying to figure these things out. But the thing that I think really sets me apart, I have been able to apply what I've learned with barometric pressure fish behavior. That really helped me. And ever since I started applying that religiously, my consistency has gone through the roof. I think at one point I was looking at my Wild West top 10 percentage. It was like 40-something%. So I finished top 10, 40-something% in Wild West. That was crazy. Last year I kind of screwed that up, but still, in FLW, I think what my top 10 percentage in FLW is 38%. But most of that happened within the last 7 years, and that's when I started paying attention to barometric pressure. We all know it to some extent. But it just tells me when I need to slow down and when I need to move, right? When I need to throw a slow-moving lure like a Senko, a Nico rig, a jig, flip, those are all slow-moving lures. And then, I love to throw chatterbaits and crankbaits. When barometric pressure drops, that's when I'm throwing that along with the swim bait and moving bait. So you understand fish behavior, so you really apply that along with your knowledge of seasonal patterns, right? For example, right now, if I was going to head out to any given lake, the further north, it'll probably be more like pre-spawn. But here in Arizona, the fish should be moving up shallow. We have relatively clear lakes here. So if you have a clear lake, what do? I fish as fast as I can. I'm burning down the bank, and I'm looking for fish that are moved up. And I'm looking for fish that are worth catching. I don't waste my time on a 2-pounder. I'm looking for a 3-pounder plus. So as long as I'm moving fast enough, I should be able to see these fish. Sometimes, they swim off a big rock or a tree that I find. I'll keep going. I have that tree marked in my the back of my mind. I keep going, maybe 50 yards down. I loop back around. I sneak back up to them. I'm firing different baits at them. Sometimes I get lucky and catch them. Sometimes I don't. But that's like the general strategy fishing here for Arizona. So if I see clear water this time of year, I know what to do, right? So with that being said, maybe you want to call that time on the water. I call that more like strategy and my approach to fishing. And yeah, when I find myself at certain lakes in California that are clear, New Maloney's was one of them. That's what I did. I applied what I knew here in Arizona out there. So with that being said, figure out what the fish do, certain times of year. They should be moving up. Right now, if I was targeting a smallie, they should be on secondary point somewhere. If it's overcast, those fish are going to scatter. They're not going to hold tight to cover. If it's bright and sunny out, I basically fish shaded areas or something they can hide, or a shade source of some sort, right? So, I call it the why factor. Whenever I catch a fish, I'm always asking why. Why was that fish there? Why did it eat? Over the years, if you can answer that why question enough, then when you see that scenario again, you know what to do, how to answer that why. So, I mean, a fish is a fish, but I can tell you, fishing all these lakes, at the end of the day, fishing is just that. It's fishing. I've talked to, actually, I had this conversation with David Walker, just at Smith Lake. And, we're talking about going to different fisheries and stuff like that. And, he told me, hey, at the end of the day, it's still fishing. And when you go out there, you practice as hard as you can. Sometimes, you stumble on the right stuff in the right area. You find those fish and you come back. If you're lucky enough, they'll still be there and you catch them and, you do well in the tournament. Other times you don't. Mm-hmm. But you have to establish that why factor. Like, right now with the fish moving up, I'm not going to be out there looking for a hump in the middle of a lake structure fishing just yet. That's maybe another month out, when the fish are done spawning. We got that Clear Lake tournament coming up. A lot of guys are fishing it at the Clear Lake, the Wombat. Yep. It should be post spawn, moving into spawn. You better be up shallow and catching those fish. Try to target those pre-spawn females. Figure out how to catch them and utilize their co-angler and have your co-angler help towards the back instead of ignoring them. So there's smart anglers and there's anglers that don't utilize all their tools, including their co-anglers in that particular format. So just, got to be smart and got to be observant and apply what you know and get after it. And, I work on every part of the game. Mechanics is also another thing. You don't hear that word here in Arizona much, but you hear that word in Northern California a lot. It's somebody's mechanics, I've studied a lot of anglers, and again, I ask myself, why does that guy do good? Well, when I watch him, you can figure out why that guy does good, you can tell he's a good fisherman. He's very efficient. He understands, how to change with the changing conditions. So, look, man, we all know it to some extent, right? We all hear, when the wind is your friend. So reaction, they're right most of the time, but sometimes they're wrong. But the reason why they're wrong, they don't understand barometric pressure. Sometimes when it's windy, it's a high pressure system causing that wind to push through your area. If that happens, you're not going to see me throw a spinnerbait. I'm hiding in a cove somewhere throwing a Finko,
Well, a lot of this stuff that you talk about is very, very simple, right? It's not easy. Yeah. It's not easy by any means, but it's simple. The mindset that you're in. And that's refreshing, man. I think that's a lot of people get, like you said, it's fishing, right? There are certain rules that are kind of hard and fast rules, but like you said, when it comes to moon phases, when it comes to barometric pressure, that can put a whole different spin on, like you said, something like wind, right? Or a temperature drop or whatever. Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is how important barometric pressure is. I have hundreds of these stories. I'm going to tell you a few highlights. At the Delta where I got third, I remember at the pre-tournament meeting, someone was like, "Oh man, that sucks. The cold front's coming through." I'm like, "Oh crap, really? Not again?" So I'll pull up the app. I'm like, "Wait a minute. That system coming through is a low pressure system. It's dropping 12 degrees. Now, when you see that and you hear that and you don't understand barometric pressure, you might think, man, that's a cold front. It's cooling down 12 degrees. These bats are going to shut off. I better drop shot or whatever, right?" No, man. I looked at it. I'm like, dude, the barometric pressure is really dropping. They're going to be on the reaction. Let's just put it this way. The first day I went out at 9:30, I was done. I had 26 pounds on a chatterbait. And where if the pressure has gone up, I would have probably thrown a chatterbait instead of 90% of the time. I probably would have thrown it 10% of the time just to keep them on and send them back to drop shots on the Finko. Something slow and something that takes these fish. So that's really all I do. And listen, I've fished with a lot of great anglers, really, really good guys that have done amazing things in the sport, that most of us would dream of. And, all this time I'm waiting for a secret bait, a secret something, but I was honestly fairly disappointed when I got in their boat. They're drop shot on a margarita meal, they're a worm, throwing a green pumpkin Cinco, or cranking like a crankbait that you can get for $6 a D22 that you can just get off the shelf. Nothing special. It's their mechanics that sets them apart, the decision making. And sometimes, you fish with a good local that fishes a lake a lot. He might show you some stuff, but I'm telling you, like, I'm not a spot fisherman anymore, meaning that I grew up fishing in Arizona, but I don't have any spots. I can't tell you a good spot to go to right now. I don't even know where my lake levels are at right now. But I know how to fish areas, so going on tour, I don't have any spots on the Delta. That's why I love the Delta, by the way. The Delta, you literally have to fish the moment, wherever the tide is.
Yep.
That's why I love going to that place. There's no spot. Like, it's not like you're going to a lake that's always stable and, you go, of a spot that's good for like 18 pounds before you leave. There's places out there like that. But at the Delta, you literally just go fish the moment and whatever the tide is, and you make your adjustment right then and there. That's why I love that place so much. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And maybe that's why a lot of people are scared of the Delta or don't like the Delta. They think that it's a spot. No, I drew Charlie O'Massey, local stud out there. I saw it has nothing to do with spots, just presentation with that guy. And then Bobby Barrett, he didn't have any spots. He was running a pattern, okay, and just very efficient. So watch those guys on TV. All of them have one thing in common: they're very efficient at what they do. So it's just accuracy by sheer volume, right? So the more casts you can make out there, it doesn't have to be pretty. If I get like 500 more casts than you do throughout the day because I'm that more efficient, well, I'm going to be that more, I'm going to be better off. I'm going to be that more consistent than you are. Does that make sense? It's
again,
no,
again, it's very simple, but it's not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I love the way that you come at this game, and like I said, I was not expecting when I called you to hear these stories that you have. Like I said, just because from what I've seen is watching you on YouTube and watching you fish Wild West and things like that. But geez, man, like I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all this, because I think it's going to really help out a lot of guys, and it just sheds more light on you. And definitely, I think, I was going to root for you anyway, but now I'm really rooting for you now that I know your backstory and everything. So.
Yeah, man. I just put myself out there, man. I ain't got nothing to hide from anybody. I'm just one of the guys, and what actually stresses me out, man, is it's not about me, man. This is way bigger than me. There's some guys that are out there because, and I'm not bashing on them, good for them. They find themselves in a financial position to do so because, their parents have built a good foundation for their family or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but, unfortunately, I'm not one of those guys. I'm really a first generation. My parents were from Vietnam, the boat people that escaped the communist rule, came here. My dad made pretty much minimum wage, and we struggled growing up. Mm-hmm. And here I am. I'm a family guy. I don't make tons of money. I don't have a ton of resources from the family. Everything I got, I worked for. So I did it through the grassroots level, bought a boat, just did everything I can. And out there, I'm not only representing Arizona, the West Coast. I'm representing the common man, the common guy that has a dream to go out there. And, I made it possible through years of dedication and hard work. I knew what it took. And, although, man, I wish I could say, I recommend my route. There's really no, one route to get there, right? Your route might be slightly different than mine or totally different than mine, but there's lots of ways to get there. But I can tell you with social media, just watch what you're saying, stay clean, stay positive. And, keep that dream alive, because at the end of the day, man, without a dream, you really don't have anything to chase after and no goals. So, go out there, grind, make as many friends, have fun, network, learn as much as you can. There's so much to it, and just be yourself, have fun at this. And you can make it, man. I mean, I made it. I got a family. I still got a long road ahead of me. So with that being said, my Facebook is just my name. Go check it out. I'm basically constantly posting on there and interacting with my followers and my friends and things like that. So, if anybody has any questions, reach out to me. I'm here to help, and I want to see the next guy make it, man. Because looking back, I was that guy on a john boat in the middle of the lake with an anchor casting out a crankbait in the middle of the lake. And here I am today. And man, I'm truly living the dream.
You definitely are, man, and I think you're an inspiration for a lot of people, including myself. So, good luck.
Appreciate it, man.
Good luck the rest of the season. And what tournament circuits are you fishing? Where can we find you? Where can we root for you?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was planning on fishing the Apex Tour. Things didn't work out. Couldn't line up another boat out west, so that was a huge bummer. That is like our West Coast thing. Won't be seeing me on the Apex Tour this year, at least hopefully I can make it to some tournaments if I can get a boat. But I'm fishing the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Major League Fishing. I also qualified through my standings at Smith Lake to go fish the Bass Pro Tour at Harris Chain. That's going to be in the middle of May. So
that's so cool.
So 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I'll leave to South Carolina, and then in a month, I'll leave to Eufaula. Right after Eufaula, I drive straight to Florida to fish the Bass Pro Tour. So check it out. Check it out my Facebook or my Instagram's Au_media, and Facebook's just my name. So
great, yes, and we will when we get this out, we'll try to make sure that we share all that stuff and tag you in there so people can see it. And definitely, you guys, go out, follow him, support this guy. Man, good luck at Harris and that big Bass Pro Tour. That's such a huge deal. I'll be watching. I'll be watching live. Hopefully, they got a camera on your boat, because I'd love to see that.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
As avid anglers, we strive for constant improvement. But constant improvement requires constant measurement.
Get in the boat.
Capture every detail of every catch with a click of a button. Mark editable waypoints with a double click. The Bullseye from Angler is a weather and waterproof Bluetooth button that pairs with the free Angler Fishing app to create the most powerful and effortless fishing intelligence in the world.
Tai, thank you so much for your time. Man, what an amazing story. It gets me fired up. Overcoming all of that and keeping your head down and just pushing through. And now, dude's living the dream. So good luck the rest of the season, Tai, as if you're going to need it. He's got a bright future ahead of him for sure. Next up, to cap this whole thing off, we got our West Coast Spotlight. And it's with a friend of mine, who is a guide in the Motherlode region here in California, which is pretty much Central California, up in the Sierra foothills. There's 3 lakes there. Yeah, kind enough to come on and talk to us just about some of the things he sees fishing, rocky impoundments. We've got them all throughout the United States. So a lot of this information, even though it's a West Coast Spotlight, it really is. I mean, the information he's got can play throughout the country. Let's take a listen. All right, Ryan Cook, bass fishing guide out of the Motherlode here in California. Ryan, thank you for joining us, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, Joel.
Great.
Getting her started off, I'm excited.
That's right. You're here on the inaugural episode, so I appreciate it. And this is something we're going to be doing, talking to guys more on the left coast over here, trying to spotlight some guys. We're going to be talking to people all over the country. But I mean, I think we don't get enough recognition out here. No one ever fishes these big tournaments out here. So thank you.
Yeah, the big boys never come out west. When they do, they
break records and stuff. It's crazy, but
it's true.
They don't like to travel.
Well, first off, give us a quick intro about you and where you fish and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so obviously Ryan Cook. The name of my business is Ryan Cook Fishing or RC Fishing. We kind of go by both. I guide here in the Motherlode, which is pretty much Central California. I fish Don Pedro Reservoir, New Maloney's Reservoir, Lake McClure. Do a little bit of stuff. We got some smaller lakes, Salt Springs Valley Reservoir, Lake Tulloch. All great fisheries throughout the year. Some of them better than others, certain times of the year, but a lot of big bass, and we got a lot of big ones out here. A lot of numbers. I've been guiding for a little over 2.5 years now. I've been fishing these lakes. Well, I've been fishing them since I was a young kid. I started bass fishing them in my late teens, early 20s, and I am 36 now. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of time in on the water on these lakes, and I absolutely love them because they're so big, they're so deep that there's a lot going on. There's always so many different bites going on.
Yeah, and we have these here, of course, in California, but these types of lakes are all throughout the United States. And so what I wanted to do and have you on here, of course, is to talk in a little more generalities about how we fish these impoundments, these rockier impoundments throughout the country. So you're fishing for, you got largemouth and spotted bass in these lakes. And like I said, and
we got a few smallmouth also.
And there's some smallmouth as well. Not something that we usually target. That's usually a bycatch, but they're definitely there.
Yeah, it's just a bonus.
It's a bonus, exactly. So what I wanted to ask you about is how do you, when you're taking your clients out or you're going fishing, how are you attacking these lakes during the spawn, going into the post spawn as we are at this point?
Okay, so spawn and post spawn, and I'm going to try not to get too long-winded on this. I tend to, but it's a lot to talk about. But when I go into these lakes, and like you said, any rocky impoundment, especially deeper reservoir type lakes, Table Rock is one that comes to mind. It's kind of similar as far as another area of the country, but during the spawn, obviously you're going to be looking shallow. And going in a post spawn. So when the fish come up and spawn, they're obviously spawning shallow. When they go into post spawn, you basically have one of two things happening. You have a group of fish that are going to stay shallow, into the summer, sometimes through the summer. And you're going to have a big group of fish, a lot of your bigger fish that are going to go out deeper, and they're going to suspend. They're going to go out to deep structure, deep rock, deep wood. That they might suspend over those rock piles, suspend near the wood, that kind of stuff. What I like to do, me personally, I'm going to jump forward to the post spawn, then we'll jump back to the spawn. Post spawn fishing, like what we have right now, we still have a few fish spawning. We have a lot of post spawn fish. I like to stay shallow. I like to stay shallow as long as possible. It's more fun, more topwater fish, more reaction fish. It's easier to put clients on fish shallow than it is deep a lot of times. Mm-hmm. The main thing I'm looking for, and it all, and not to throw too much in there, but it all depends on what the water level is doing. So if you have a lake that is stable, that doesn't rise and drop much, it's a lot more easy to predict what these fish are going to do. On our Motherlode lakes right now, with the exception of Lake McClure, Don Pedro and New Maloney's are both on the fall. In the last, I don't know, let's just call it 2 weeks, they've both fallen about 5 foot. So what that does, these pre-spawn fish that were going to move up, back into your creek channels, your shallower, flatter areas, a lot of those fish are now starting to spawn or spawning on your more steep main lake rocky stuff, which is not normal. So I want to throw that out there to clarify. This is not a typical thing, but with falling water, this is what happens. So, and your post-spawn fish, a lot of them, instead of chasing shad, pushing into the backs of your coves and creeks, they're hanging out more main lake. Today at Don Pedro, I ran I ran Main Lake all morning. We caught the heck out of them. I mean, we caught a bunch. I had a young kid on the boat the first 2 hours. He had 16, 17 in the boat. Mm-hmm. And he was 8 years old, all on his own. The bite was good.
Heck yeah.
And then we started running your more flatter stuff, your traditional spawn, post-spawn type stuff, the backs of your creeks, the backs of your pockets. And we caught fish, but the bite was real slow, and I wasn't finding any better quality. So I think that's due to the falling water. If you are on an impoundment where it's stable, then you want to run your typical patterns. If you don't know what those are, you can Google them, you can look it up. But basically, early in the spawn, they're going to be in the backs of your more flatter pockets, your coves, your creek channels, that kind of stuff. And then midway through the spawn, later in the spawn, that second wave of fish, a lot of those fish will go a little bit more Main Lake. And that's due to where the water temperature heats up the quickest early in the spring.
Yeah.
Post-spawn, if you're on a body of water, that does not fluctuate that often, the same areas they're spawning, man, they're going to hang out in those real similar areas post-spawn, especially if you're on a lake that has threadfin shad or some sort of shad type fish in it. When those fish start to spawn and the bluegill spawn, then the big bass hang around. So if your water level's stable, post-spawn and the spawn, they're going to be in a lot of the same areas. You might have to change up your baits as far as during the spawn. You might want to slow down, your bottom contact bait, something that's going to upset a bedfish. Post-spawn, you're going to go more your top water, your rip baits, your flukes, because those fish, after they spawn, they're going to get real hungry. They want to start chasing bait. They want to feed up because they haven't been eating much for a couple of weeks. And they really, really get on the chew. So I hope that answered your question, Joel.
It definitely does. So what kind of baits are you throwing? And let's focus on the post spawn here. As these fish, like you said, they start to move off a little bit, maybe they start to suspend a little bit, but they're still looking to eat. And I think you've talked a little bit about the baits, but what's your go-to favorite baits to throw during the post spawn?
So post spawn, number one is topwater. If I can get them to eat a topwater bait, I'll take 10 bites on topwater over, 30, 40 on just about anything else I can throw.
Yep.
I mean, one, it's exciting. Two, it just gets you your bigger bites. There's just something about topwater. Anything from a small popper to a little whopper plopper, all the way to a big giant walking bait, big double buzz bait, big whopper plopper. It just attracts bigger fish. If they won't eat topwater, I really like to throw a rip bait. I like to throw a fluke. I really like to throw a Zoom Super Fluke, nose hooked with like a 1/0 or a 2/0 Gamakatsu split shot drop shot hook. And quick little tip, any split shot drop shot hook, that type of hook that's kind of pointed in, almost like that circle hook look, get your needle nose, bend that hook out just a fuzz, maybe 1/8 of an inch, open that gap up a little bit, your hookup ratio will go up through the roof. Today at Don Pedro, let's use that as an example. I expected to find some topwater fish, some reaction fish, and we did find some reaction fish on a rip bait later in the afternoon when the wind kicked up. But this morning, there was no reaction bite at all that I found. I'm sure somebody did. And we went to just a good old Ned rig, a jig, and a Nico rig. And I mean, we cleaned house. We caught the heck out of them, fishing them real slow, which goes against what traditionally we would be doing. So that's what I'm getting at. Keep an open mind, have all your baits rigged up, always post spawn, start with your moving baits, start with your reaction baits. If they're not biting it, have yourself a fall bait. I call it a fall bait, something that you can kind of fish slowly through the water column. Wacky rig Cinco, weighted wacky Cinco. I talk about a tube a lot, like little 3 to 4 inch tubes with a jig head inside of them. They spiral on the way down. Great fall bait. And fall bait, I'm not talking the fall time of year, just a bait that you let fall.
Yeah.
And then if they're not eating that, man, go to the bottom, fish slow, even post spawn. If they're not chasing, there's a way to catch those fish. Some days they're not active. Throw your jig, throw your Nico rig, throw your Ned rigs, shaky heads, drop shot, whatever your confidence is, and slow down. one of the big problems I see this time of year is everybody's just trying to force feed that fast bite. And a lot of times those guys will get beat by a guy just dead sticking something when those fish get inactive. So you kind of got to be ready for both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what are some of the common mistakes? And I think you cover so much, you know, every time I talk to you, and yeah, I know this guy, so we've talked a lot about fishing. What are some common mistakes maybe you haven't covered yet that guys are making during this time of year? I think you just covered one just now with, you know, you can't expect just because you've read something umpteen times on the internet, you have to be throwing a fast bait, or you have to be throwing this, you have to be throwing that. You got to keep an open mind, right?
Absolutely. And real quick, just to touch on what you just said, there's a lot of great information out there. I mean, Mark was saying with Bass Angler Magazine, he does a great job of getting good, legitimate information out there. There's a lot of really bad info out there too, guys, and you got to be really careful with what you hear, what you read. I've heard on one of Mark's podcasts before, he talks about kind of the difference in reality as far as YouTube versus real life fishing. And so many guys get on YouTube, they watch all this stuff, and these are just people out there trying to make content. You've got to get the right information, and you've got to go out with an open mind and just know from somebody that does this every day for a living, putting people on fish from, you know, tournament guys to first timers that don't know how to cast. Any time of the year, 12 months out of the year, there's a lot of power in fishing a bait very slow. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, and
I got off on I got off on a tangent. What was your actual question?
No, I think that's a really common mistake people make, especially people that are trying to learn this and really get good at bass fishing and trying to figure the whole thing, putting the pieces together, right? A lot of the stuff you're going to watch is going to be either regionally specific. It's going to be people, I'm sorry to say, but they're fishing places that you're not going to be able to fish. This could be a private place, could be whatever, right? I'm not saying they all do that, but you
right.
can't. I mean, if they're just throwing this crazy bait and it's 30 fish, and you go try that bait and like, I didn't get one bite. Well, there may be a reason for that, So that's why I kind of wanted to have you on and make this real general about just public waterways, impoundments like you fish, which are all across this country. Keep an open mind, right?
Keep an open mind, and if you have the luxury, have several rods rigged up with different baits. Don't get hung up on color. Color catches fishermen, not fish, most of the time. Get yourself a few general colors, your natural looking stuff, your brighter stuff. If you get a lot of wind, it stains up the water. You get a mud line, which we get on these deep, clear impoundments a lot of times. I mean, maybe throw, a spinner bait with white blades, and a chartreuse skirt. Get something crazy out there. If you're throwing a spinner bait first thing in the morning in real clear water, get something natural. Your silver blades, your clear white iridescent type skirts, that kind of stuff. And on your jigs, your plastics, get yourself just a couple, man. Green pumpkin, black flake always catches them. Something natural like an ox blood, just a brown always catches them. And reds and purples always catch them with plastics. That's all you need. I throw purple and green pumpkin almost exclusively 12 months out of the year. Once in a while, I'll get, a shad imitation bait, that kind of stuff. But an old timer told me a long time ago, and I'm talking about find out where your fish are. Find your fish. Don't worry about what bait you're using to catch them. The wrong bait in the right location is far more effective than the right bait in the wrong location. And on top of that, speed is critical. If they're not eating it fast, slow it down. If they're not eating it then, slow it down even more. That's my best advice.
Well, it's funny. I had one last question that I've been asking everybody is about colors, and you answered it almost exactly as I phrase it. And it's in this here podcast with Justin Lucas said the same thing. And pretty much everybody I asked says the same thing, so I'm going to have to quit asking the question. But colors do catch fishermen. It means more to a fisherman what color your bait is, I feel like, than it does the fish. So I'm with you.
It's a confidence thing.
If you give me one thing, the rest of my life, it's probably going to be a peanut butter and jelly. But that's me.
PB&J always catches them. I don't care where you go, clear water, deep water, shallow water, muddy water, it will always catch them. Same with green pumpkin, same thing.
That's it. Straight from the mother lode guide's mouth. You guys got it.
That's it. I talked to, it's funny, the old timer that taught me how to fish, I talked to him today. I was up at Don Pedro. He gave me a call. He said, yeah, man, we caught him pretty good yesterday. He said, yeah, it was funny. We were throwing tubes. He said, back in the creek channels, they wanted the green pumpkin with the red flake, but out on the main lake, they wanted the green pumpkin with the blue flake. And I said, Don, I love you to death. You taught me everything I know. I said, but you think a bass goes up and looks at that crawdad and says, you know what, that thing's got a little bit too much blue in it. I'm looking for something a little bit more red. I don't think they have the ability to think like that. You know, that's just, but that's just the way my brain works. And the other thing is, if you have confidence in a certain color and you think you need it, then you need it. Because if not, you're not going to fish it correctly.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up, buddy. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us all this this great knowledge and yeah, man, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, and good luck with this podcast, man. I think it's going to be a hit. I think it'll be awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, and I hope so too.
All right, bro, Cephas, I appreciate it. Tight lines, and go stick a big one.
All right, and that wraps up the first episode of the Bass Angler Magazine podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to reach out, give us some feedback. Loved it, hated it, whatever. You can find us on Instagram at bass_angler_mag. Yeah, send us a note on there. Let us know what you think. Also, on iTunes, subscribe, rate, and comment if you can. It's awesome, and it helps us a lot get this out there to more people so we can help them catch more fish. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.